Hey, what's up, y'all? I'm Michael Ray, and I'm today's Man of the Hour.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Men of the Hour podcast. You know, when we want you guys to listen to the show, I only hope that you're able to leave feeling inspired and motivated by the most influential men that we bring on the show. And today's story from Michael Ray is unlike any other. I'm excited to bring you guys. I'm joined now by country music star Michael Ray himself. Dude, I got to say, it doesn't get any better than having a Zoom call with a pal like yourself. I want to start period blank. You know, we're entering a new year here. 2020 was quite the extravaganza for all of us. We're still going through a lot of that. But kind of give us your life update as to how you've been doing, how you've been coping with things, and ultimately just how Michael Ray is overall right now.
Man, well, thanks for having me on here, man. This is fun. 2020, like you said, with all of us, was one we never first off saw coming. It felt like everything that happened was bad or negative around every corner, So I think for the first time, I kind of looked back on 2020 and was like, okay, that is done. Whatever happened in that year is done. Like we're past. We pushed that. The only way to move forward is to grow and to put that past stuff of that year or whatever it is that people go through back. And that's not always easy for me to do. I harp a lot in my own mind. I'm in my own head a lot, really battle that. And I think that this year's something that I wouldn't call it resolution. I want to say a goal because I think it takes time to get to that point. But it's to not be in my head so much and not, beat myself up or the what ifs of things. I feel like I battle that a little bit. And I think the what if of, what's to come in our careers, what's to come with our lives, what's around the corner there. So 2021 started out that way for me. And then I'll be honest with you, I think I like everybody else, was like, June, we're going back on the road in June. I was talking about that all year and last year. So it was the one thing that was hoping. We do have shows in June, but just the way that the world still is and the way that this stuff's going on, and the fear of the unknown, I think, it's been something that I've been battling. But as of right now, man, I feel like I feel great. I feel mentally the best I felt, physically the best I felt. And I've been, really focusing more on that and just kind of trying to realize how to completely move forward, and to realize that to be the best for everybody around you, you have to be at your best for yourself.
Oh, Mike, man, that's good to hear you say, man, because I think a lot of times people are still struggling mentally because you're right. It's like, it's this constant battle of the uncertainty, the unknown of the rest of this year, because who knows? I mean, the vaccine is such a great step in the right direction, but we still don't know about events, right? Like most of your life was traveling and being on the road.
Right.
Quick memory lane moment real fast, buddy. Remember when you were on Strahan and Sarah? You came here to New
Yeah.
York City. I was in that audience. I believe I was in a fellowship at some point. That's when I first discovered you, and you had they had presented you with something at the end of the show. I believe it was a platinum record or like some type of record showcase of how many listens you might have had that summer up until when you came on the show, man. But that's what you were doing. You were always on the road, coming up to New York, playing gigs in Nashville or what have you. But that's the life of a musician, period blank. I think that's when people have realized a lot of times that's how you guys make your living. It's how you make your money. But more on your mental health really quickly. How have you gotten to a place where like you're no longer feeling as anxious about the year, especially because it just got started?
Yeah. I think really focusing on health, on, trying to really prioritize that. I feel like at the end of last year, I probably let that go a little bit more than I normally would have. In some ways in purpose, because I was like, man, what do we have to do? We have nothing to do. If I want to go here, eat this or do whatever. But I just got, get myself back on that path and realize that honestly, when I'm not in that mindset or doing that, that's when all those bad, like, the anxiety gets worse, the depression feelings start getting worse. So for me, I'm like, okay, well, as long as I keep active, and you don't have to do a lot, just do something, be active, find that time, that hour and a half a day, or whatever you have for yourself. I realized that was so important to me. And one thing that I also realized was how much I needed, and not that I took it for granted, I just think that I knew it was always going to be there, or thought it was always going to be there. So every Wednesday we're going on bus call, right? I see my band, I see the fans. I'm as a country fan, I'm playing these festivals and I'm seeing buddies of mine, I'm seeing heroes that I grew up with, so as a country fan, I'm going to concerts as well. And then outside of just playing them,
Yeah.
And I think that that I didn't realize how much that meant to me and how much that was like therapy to me. We get on a bus with people that are like your family that you see more than you do your own family.
Hmm.
And your first few hours together is either, man, you ain't gonna believe this, or man, hey, this happened, or good or bad, or it's literally just kind of catching up, but everybody's talking to each other. We're all about the same age, so we've all been through similar situations. And man, there's just nothing like live music. There's nothing like
Oh man.
that thing that brings everybody together. Like the beautiful part of shows of music is you might not know who the person is sitting next to you. You might never see them again. They might have completely different views than what you have,
Hmm.
but that doesn't matter in that time. You're two human beings that are just there for the one thing, and that's music. Let's forget about all the other stuff going on. And I don't know if fans know this, but as much as they need that, we need them for that. And it's like this thing, this little tornado of like energy, that goes
Yeah.
in a club or an arena or whatever that is.
Yeah.
And yeah, like I said, I didn't realize how much I needed that until it was gone, and how much I relied on it, and how much I relied on the fans and my band and crew, and so I think going into this year, I've really been, like I said, been really focused on, what's my mental health? How can I get myself better? What's my physical, getting back in the gym, getting uh, just my personal more on track than it was, for a little while last year because of everything going on. I kind of just found myself kind of in a daze.
I think too, it's part of it has to be the realization that this is kind of a reality now. We're going to be sitting in it for a little longer, but hopefully it'll come to a place where we can then start seeing more concerts. I think at Broadway might have been one of the first to open up some type of, I believe it was in Sydney, Australia. They had opened up their first Broadway show, and you saw people with masks, I think 6 or 7 seat apart. There's a future for that. Hopefully, that's not exactly what it's going to look like for so long. But I mean, this. You said it's the whirlwind or the tornado of energy, man. I'm all about it because when you see someone with positive energy, you're receptive to it, and especially with your fans and the music lifestyle in and of itself, you have to have that energy because you're probably not even sleeping that much. But I want to take the word energy and reel it all the way back to whenever you first started playing guitar, even with your grandfather. So when you first really started understanding what music was, and you were looking to your grandfather Amos Roach, right? Because he had a very successful music career. And when you were looking to him for music, and then when he was starting to teach you music, was that when you then realized you wanted to do this full time, or did it kind of happen more in high school when you finally decided to launch that band of yours back then? Kind of tell us a little bit about the history of Michael Ray discovering
Oh,
music.
um, welcome to class, kids. No, man, what got me, well, I believe what made my grandfather start showing me chords was my parents got divorced when I was 8, and it wasn't a smooth thing. It was pretty bad in that moment, in that time, and I was going to North Carolina with my grandfather, my grandmother, my uncle Kenny, my aunt Linda, and some other family members, and they started teaching me. They were all, my grandfather always had a guitar. Somebody in my family, they're always jamming, always playing something. And I was like, I want to learn how to play. And I always make the joke that I think he used us grandkids as like, process of elimination because he just loved music so much that I think he gave a guitar to my sister Ryan, and she was like, I didn't stick. And then Christina came, and then I was the first boy, at the time, and he was probably like, here we go, let's try him. And so,
Finally.
yeah, I think he just loved music, wanted everybody to just at least try it, at least give it a shot. And so I think he saw that time period in my life where you're very influential, obviously, at those ages, and life for me was just flipped on its head, and he taught me my first 3 chords, and I think him and I started bonding over that, and and then my dad would show me stuff because everybody in my family plays, so my dad would
Sure.
show me stuff, my uncle would show me things, and once you start learning how to play and you actually start learning songs, it became like well, I want to impress my grandfather. I want to impress my dad. I want to learn this song and surprise him with, when you're 10, 11 years old. And I was playing at that time 2, 3 nights a week with my grandfather, at different places that he would play at. But I didn't really think about like doing this for a career until I played in Wednesday Chapel at my middle school or middle school. I think might have been, yeah, I think it was middle school. And you know, because I've always feel like your grandparents got to tell you you're good. You know, like your grandma's not gonna be like, "Hey, kid, you suck." You know, well, my grandma might have said that, so actually she might have said that, but they were always so encouraging. You know, so I was like, well, I kind of feel like you got to say it. You're my family.
Yeah.
But when you stand up in front of a full hall of, you know, teenage jerks, you know, that are going to be very honest with you. They weren't jerks, but they can be. You know, that want to be very that can be brutal. It was the most nerve-wracking thing I've ever done, you know. And so, and afterwards, everybody came up to me. I got standing ovation. Everybody come up to me, my buddies and, you know, friends of mine were like, "Dude, man, you're good, man." And I was like, all right, well, maybe I
Something there.
could do this. Maybe there is something, you know, because they weren't related to me, and they, you know, and I was
It
kidding,
didn't
but
have to be nice. They could have told you you sucked and threw a
they could
tomato
just,
at you.
yeah, exactly. Hey, you suck. Get off. You know, but they didn't, and so that moment gave me a lot of encouragement
Right.
to kind of keep doing that. You know, well, if they like me and they're my buddies, you know, and they would have. Middle school is such a weird time for everybody. You know, so I'm like, if anybody's not going to like it, it's going to be middle school kids. You know, uh, but they gave me that encouragement, man, and that's kind of when I realized I wanted to move to Nashville.
Oh, Nashville, Smashville. We're going to talk about that towards the end of the interview, Michael. I'm excited. I told you my southern roots are in Tennessee, and my brother and my
That's
dad are
right.
there now. Anytime I get the chance to talk to somebody from Tennessee, I get super excited, man. You mentioned that that encouragement I know leads to confidence as well. So we'll get to that in just a moment. I want to talk about your second album that you entitled after your grandfather, Amos. So I want to ask you, I mean, if you're going to name an entire album after your grandfather, I could only imagine how influential he was to you in terms of his career with music, but also the lessons he probably taught you, you know, and as you're growing up as this musician. I mean, listen, if it's not going to be your parents and your grandparents and people that are your family telling you what you should and shouldn't do or what you should be careful of, who the hell is going to tell you? So like, if you had a major lesson that, you know, your grandfather Amos Roach left with you, what would probably the biggest lesson you'd think he gave to you was?
Man, my grandfather was that guy. You know, he's the backbone of our whole family. You can ask, you know, second cousins. You can. Everybody was impacted by him. You know, and he wanted to share all knowledge. You know, he was in the army, learned how to do telephone work, and at the time where we're from, you know, there weren't a lot of careers, must say. You know,
Mm,
we're like in my family's. You know, he was raised very dirt poor. You know, in the
mm,
middle of Eustis, and so
yep,
he found this job or learned this trade that paid well, and he knew the work, and he's a hard worker, you know. And then he brought it back and taught all his brothers, and they taught all their kids. He taught all of us grandkids. So like there's a, you know, now there's people still working for the telephone company because my grandfather, you know. And so that's just
sure,
kind of the guy that he was. And I think more he was a king of one liners, but I think more than what he said, I think he taught all of us by what he did,
mm,
you know. And his way was actions. Even when we'd be like, you know, he started his own telephone company whenever he was retired, and was still doing installation and repair, and that's what I was doing, you know, middle school, high school, working summers with him.
hmm,
And I'll never forget. This is one story that sticks in my head. I was probably 13 years old, and we were putting in the telephone lines for this older lady in this trailer park. And this is my grandfather. This whole story will tell you my grandfather and one big story or one little story. So we were inside and we finished the job and everything's done. And my grandpa was like checking on, make sure everything's good. Let us know if you need anything. Over there's a satellite dish that you hang on the side of the trailer, right, where you move and twist, and it's big. This is not what we're there for at all. He looks there, he goes, "Oh, you got a satellite dish, huh? Coming in." She's like, "Yeah, I'm waiting for my son or my grandson to get in town so he can put it up." And he's like, "Oh, so you ain't got any TV?" She's like, "Oh no, I've been, you know, reading and whatever." And he's like, "Nah, screw that." He goes, "We'll put it up. Don't worry about it." And it's like 5 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock at night, right? We've been working, putting in, we've done 2 or 3 trailers by this point. This is the last thing. And we're 13 years old. You're like, "Come on, grandpa. You know, I want to get out of here. Let's go. You know, I want to watch TV or whatever it is." And she's like, "You don't have to." And he's like, "No, ma'am. No, if you ain't got TV, we're going to make sure you're taken care of." Here I am, 13 years old on the side of this trailer now, screwing in this thing while my grandpa's telling me, you know, what to do. And the whole time I'm like, why are we doing this? You know? And it was, you know, of course he didn't want any extra money for it. There was none of that. And as a kid, I remember, hey, we're working, you know, in my mind. And I got in the van and I said, "Grandpa," I mean, it was like a few hours later, you know. I said, "Grandpa," I said, why did we put that, why did we put that lady's thing up? She said her son was coming, you know. And he said, "Because she didn't have TV." He said she needed it done. And that's how he was around our entire community. You know, everybody knew him as a guy that would get the shirt off his back, you know, do anything in the world. He didn't have anything, man. He didn't have very much. He was just a hardworking man. But those moments, I'll never forget that. And it was all, you know, his way was always leave people better than you found them, you know, and and so that story in itself is how my grandfather was, and that I'll never forget that day. And it's been a story that sticks in my mind whenever I don't feel like maybe doing, because we're all human, man. You know, maybe you don't feel like doing an extra, go the extra mile, whatever, but it goes a long way for somebody, and it changes, and you don't know what that does to them. And so that was an action of his that taught me a lot, you know, and I still hold today.
You said he's famous for one-liners. I bet his one-liner was that, you know, leave people better than
Better
you
than
found them,
found. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Oh man, that's
absolutely.
powerful. You brought up this idea of, or you brought up the story of your parents divorcing earlier. I know you've opened up about it quite a few times in interviews in the past, but I wanted to bring up something else you mentioned when you've discussed it in the past, really, about this idea that a lot of times life's struggles, which more often than none are handed to us out of left field. Most of the time, you can't really control it. It's a huge thing I'm always telling people. If if you feel stressed about something, realize whether or not you can or cannot control it.
Right.
Sometimes, even with your parents being so young, I mean, you couldn't have controlled it, but ultimately, anybody's parents, you could be 50 years old and your parents get a divorce, and that's not something that you necessarily have control over. It's their relationship. And so, back to this thing you mentioned before, which is, you know, a lot of times struggles are bringing people closer together. I wanted to ask you to elaborate on that and just kind of give us a better idea as to how maybe your parents having divorced at such a young age, you know, has brought you closer to people over the course of your lifetime, be it your family, your friends, or whomever.
Yeah, I think you know, there's this saying that, you know, people that are, you know, hurt or go through whatever a stranger's going through, you might not even know, are more compassionate and understand them more than somebody that maybe didn't. I think, you know, growing up, life wasn't easy. You know, ever had its ups and downs like everybody else does, but there are, you know, moments in all of our lives personally that really stick, you know, and really
Yeah.
change who you are in the long run. You know, and it might make you have to work through things later on that you don't even realize you needed to work through. So I think, you know, I think coming from that type of home, even though there was always loving, like, you know, my sisters and I were always close. You know, my family, it was never never not feeling loved or never not feeling encouraged. It was mainly, you know, a couple years of just parents, you know, back and forth and, you know, not seeing them here, not see, you know, it was a lot of, it just kind of came out of nowhere, you know. But fortunately I had my grandparents, you know, were married 53 years and really you know, my aunt and uncle who were married 30 something years as well. And so had those kind of on the other side of things to learn from and watch that. But
Yep.
I feel like going through what I go through makes me have more compassion and understanding to people that are broken or from broken homes or going through stuff or going through, you know, anxiety, going through those type of things where maybe you don't feel like anybody gives a shit, you know, but really they do, you know, and people that go through it, I think it allows you to connect with them way better and way faster than if you didn't.
Yeah. Even now, look, everybody was going through so much shit in 2020. That
Yeah.
it could have been anything between layoffs, families passing, friends, you know, getting furloughed, whatever. We saw a lot of it last year. And I
Hmm.
remember looking in the mirror and saying, if you don't go into the next year, if you don't go into tomorrow a more empathetic and compassionate man to people, that's why we started the show. Like,
Yep.
if you do not enter this world tomorrow, right now, as a more compassionate and empathetic person, I'm not sure you will even feel as though you're contributing anything, you
Yeah,
know?
and I think when you go through what we've all gone through last year, it's hard to show empathy when you don't have any empathy for yourself. You know, it's hard to show. It's hard when you're just beating yourself down constantly, and it's the true thing, man. And I'm, you know, I'm bad about it. You know, what you tell yourself is what you believe,
Yeah.
and if you tell yourself this, you know, you know, I'm fat, I'm ugly, I'm never gonna get this, I'm never gonna that. Within time, you're gonna start believing that shit, you know,
Yeah,
and it
man.
sticks. And then when dude, nobody thought this year was gonna happen. I don't care what you do for a living or what. No one thought this stuff would ever happen. Never. Um, and out of nowhere, all of our worlds get flipped upside down, you know. And if you, and then it's the depression, like you said, it's the families falling apart. It's, you know, it's the fear of the unknown for, I don't care who you are. No one had paychecks coming in. People's normal lives of what they've known for years, 20, 30, 40 years, completely altered, you know, completely changed. And so if you don't have empathy for yourself in those moments of like, you know what, I am feeling this way. How do I get, like you said, wake up tomorrow and try to make tomorrow better than it was today. Whether whatever that is, even if it's just in your world, in your bubble, this is all you can control, you know, right here, this area. How do you make that better tomorrow than it is today? And I think that if everybody wakes up, like you said, you know, and just how can I be more empathetic? How can I be more understanding in things that maybe I don't even know? You know, now we're so divided in so many ways that it's like we're human beings that at the end of the day, I don't care who you are or what it is, we want happiness, we want health, and we want to live a long life. You know, that's it. And we all this other shit that we put in it is what makes us feel the way that we do, you know, in comparison. And, you know, and I'm not on this person. We're on this shit all the time. Like people are posting the real reality. They ain't posting real stuff. It's better posting what you want to see, you know? So
Oh, man.
I think this year was or last year, I keep saying this year, last year was a year of me also having to learn empathy because I was beating myself up so bad, you know, and the fear of that stuff that I just felt, you feel like you didn't have any empathy for yourself. So how can you have empathy for somebody else, you know? And I think it's a good thing that we all could practice.
Man, practice make perfect. And if all of us are going in the same direction of that, then we could
That's
eventually
right.
see that. That's something you
We
said,
could.
you said, welcome to school, kids, earlier. You know, class isn't adjourned yet, man. You got all the salty wisdom, man. I love all of this. And that's why this show exists, buddy. Michael, you've been through a lot, you've seen a lot, you're living through a lot with us now. And even to hear you say that to go in a more empathetic direction is probably what the world needs anyway. That then ties back to you having the, you know, awakening when your grandfather was like, she doesn't have a TV. We're going to do it for free. I don't care. You're going to go put that pole up and you're going to strip those cords like I
Right.
told you to do it. And now it's coming back full circle because this is how now you're feeling like you should approach the world as well. Um,
Right.
Man, I couldn't get to the middle of this great conversation with you, Michael, without bringing up your latest single, Whiskey and Rain. I was jamming out to it last night. I was jamming
Thanks,
out to it
man.
when it first came out. You got a good one there, buddy. And I know there's probably great more music coming up, but this is the latest. And I'm obsessed with it because I think it alludes to the idea you and I just talked about, which is really that life brings together a lot of negative experiences sometimes. And again, some of these you cannot control, but for the most part, it brings people together in a way that you might be thankful for eventually. But can you break it down for us in terms of like how you were laying down the tracks, what inspired the song, and then ultimately what message you really want Whiskey and Rain to have for listeners, especially given what we just said?
Man, Whiskey and Rain, we recorded in quarantine. So it couldn't have been any more strange, but also a lot of fun. You know, in a way, it was like, well, hell, we're here. You know what I mean? At least we live in a time where we can do this, or we can still record and get music out there. You know, but I never saw the band that played. We cut my vocals in the front closet of my tour manager's house. No studio. There was none of that. So we were sending. We sent the drummer sent his part in from his home studio. Bass player sent his, so none of us were together. But to even take that a little bit further than that, when I first heard Whiskey and Rain, I was writing, listening to songs for this album. This whole album, when people hear it, is you're going to hear the influences of this 80s and 90s, country music that I grew up loving, the 70s country music that I grew up loving, thanks to my grandfather, my dad, and them having their band. I feel like very, very grateful for the success that I've had, but I always felt like there was something missing. And I think that missing part was me not being 100% myself on this stuff. I was kind of just like, okay, well, this is what they're saying. I'll do that. Okay. And then some things just didn't seem right. And with this album, I was like, this is the album that I'm putting my flag in the ground. I love country music and I want to be here and I want to be a part of this. And I want this to show. So what if we took what if we took the influences of the 70s, the 80s, and 90s, and what if some of these songs that we love, what if they came out today? What would that be like? It might be What I'd Say by ETC came out. What would that be like right now? If if Merle Haggard's "Today I Started Loving You Again," what would that be like right now? And so when I heard "Whiskey and Rain" for the first time, my manager Buffy was actually got it played for by Jesse Frazier, one of the writers. He co-wrote it with a guy named Josh Thompson, and he said, "Man, I think I got something. We would like to send Michael." And she sends it. She put it on hold. I didn't even hear it. She's like, "This is a hit," and I didn't even hear it yet. She sent it to me. She goes, "I think we got it," and it really embodies the entire album. And we felt like it was a great introduction for fans to get on and go, "Okay, this is where this record's heading." And so there's a lot of that. Country. It's what I came to Nashville to do. It's blended with the 4 years of being on the road, learning who I was as an artist, gaining that confidence, learning through, mistakes, learning through achievements, learning through all the stuff to go, you know what? No, this is Michael Ray. If you want to know who I am as an artist, here's a record to listen to. And so it was fun piecing those puzzles, piecing those things together because it was like a puzzle, when the songs were coming in and the band were coming in and the parts were coming in and trying to fit that all together. So it was a cool thing, way different than we've ever cut anything else. But it's been it's been fun, man. It's caused me to learn a lot of things I probably wouldn't have learned if we were in the studio. So
Gosh, man, because you're getting smarter and you're starting to think a lot differently about music during these times. I mean, for anybody listening and not watching this clip, we're on a Zoom call. Isn't that crazy? The fact that
it's
we're
weird.
doing this on Zoom, and I'll be honest with you, my mic almost went out. I think Michael probably like 1 or 2 times might have shot, but we'll cut it out. It'll still be super clean. This is literally, this is the reality of what we're doing. I would have probably been backstage somewhere at a concert of yours, normally doing an interview that way. But you're right, staying with the time, staying ahead of it, which gets to my next point with you. As a musician, a creative, someone who's singing and songwriting, in order to produce that, and say you have all the applications and you end up finding the right equipment, do you think that people now who are musicians and, again, singer songwriters looking to still create music who cannot get in studios during this time, do they need to have a virtual backup plan with, say, their team, like how you all were able to cut Whiskey and Rain?
Yeah, like I think right now, really leaning on socials and learning what works for you. I think keeping fans involved. I think if I was somebody that was just coming up, wanting to move to Nashville or wanting to get going, take advantage of the fact that you have these avenues that put you around the world, immediately. Like you at the touch of a button, you can release a song and everybody in the world has an opportunity to hear that. I think if you really take advantage of that right now, we'll get back. We don't know when it's going to happen, but for now, there's ways to monetize your socials. There's ways to monetize your career. There's ways to stay active with fans. There's ways to release new music. And now, like you said, your mic went out. I probably glitched, all this stuff. Everybody's just like, what else is going to happen? So I think take advantage of the fact that there really aren't rules right now. People are just happy that we're surviving. So take advantage of the fact that you get, there are not really there isn't really any rules. So release music as much as you can. Keep that fan base going. Find out a live stream to do. Find out what you're doing with a podcast or something. And hey, how many times a month do we do this? Do we do it once a month? Do the fans want it once a week? How do we make this happen? And just really utilize all the tools that we have at our fingertips here.
Wait, Michael, I think you're cutting out, buddy. You're not kidding, bro.
Oh, I thought it was. I was like, damn it.
Said it right. Oh, wait, let me knock on wood really quickly. You're right. We're both frozen. There's no rules. You can do whatever you want right now, and you can create however you need to create to fill your soul, to fill your creative juices as a singer, songwriter, as a podcaster, a host, a video person, whatever. This is a very virtual time that I think our world was waiting to see peak. And now that we're at the peak of it, I know we want the 50-50. I want to do this part-time. And then the other part, we need to go backstage at a concert.
Absolutely, man.
You know what I mean?
You're always welcome at my shows, brother. Anytime, man.
Oh, Mr. Ray. The fact that you said that, I'm coming to Nashville. I'm always down there. I want to get back to really quickly on this idea of confidence with you. I mean, between middle school, high school, when you were starting to get really in the rhythm of music, you mentioned that some of those kids who could have been assholes, but they were nice, right? Were not throwing tomatoes, and they were helping build that confidence for you. And a lot of times that's because first of all, you have a great voice, you have a great career going for you. But before all of that, now, I feel like there could have been a point in time where you had to really tell yourself that confidence was going to be the name of the game, especially since you're constantly working on new music that you're not sure is going to be a hit, and or pitching yourself or the music you've just produced, right, to record labels or whomever needs to be hearing it so that it can become one of the top tracks. So as you've been going on that journey of building self-confidence, kind of help us better understand, did you find it difficult? And then was building confidence ultimately something that you felt like you had to adjust to get to a certain level that you're at now?
Yeah, I still battle with confidence, man. I think we all do in ways. I, for me, like I said, I'm in my head a lot of times, and trying to make that a goal this year. And like I said, not to do really break that habit. But yeah, I think those moments to cling on to those. I think it's also important to be around people that make you feel confident. I think who you're around does affect your mindset. It does affect who you are and what you do. And if you're around people that are lifting you up, even in your and be open with them. Find friends and family. Find somebody you can go to that, and you just be honest with. I don't care if you're a grown ass man or a woman or a kid or whatever. Like you got to have somebody. You're like, hey man, I'm not good. I'm like I'm not doing well, or hey man, I'm just feeling off. Like feel like I don't look good. Feel like whatever that is. Feel like my voice hasn't been the same. Or whatever. Um, but I think for me, it's been years of playing shows. Those moments with my family, always encouraging me, being around friends that are always encouraging. Um, and kind of in the last few years going, you know what? No, I was put on this earth to do this. Like this is what you don't have that passion for being an entrepreneur. You don't have that passion for, you know, science. You don't have that passion for whatever it is for by accident. God put that in you for a purpose. And the reason why your path has gone this way, man, there's so many times I could have gone a different route or if I wouldn't have gone here, it would have probably changed a lot of things. But it took me the last few years going, you know what? No, I know I'm good at this. I know I can do this. If I can't do it, there's not much else that I'm like great at, but I know I can do this. and so I think fans, like you said, we're constantly working on music, constantly releasing music that I feel is a hit. My team feels it's a hit. People I play it for, feel a hit. But what if y'all don't? And that's that little bit of fear of like, well, what if it doesn't connect, or what if it doesn't get the airplay? We're hoping it does. And I think we're always working towards that. And I think just the fans are always showing up, always having my back, always growing and spreading the word. I think really has helped with my confidence in music, and then having a personal life with friends and family around that give a shit about how you're feeling and what you're doing, and will say, hey dude, you doing good, man. You seem a little different, seem a little off. I think having those friends around that lift you up. I think after a while you just start feeling more confident. You start walking a little different. And listen, God made one of all of us for a reason. So go be the best one of you that you can be, because that's it. You know what I mean? That after you, there ain't going to be another one. Ain't like 2.0 comes out, 10 years later. I think if I could encourage anybody listening or watching, just know that God made one of you, and that's all that there is. So go be the best one of that there is, and don't worry about everybody else, man. Walk a little cocky and do your thing.
You know what, Michael? So I don't know if I mentioned this to you before. My dad's in Tennessee. My brother's in Tennessee. A lot of my friends are moving from the West Coast to Tennessee, specifically Nashville. We know a lot of celebrities live in Franklin and Brentwood. I went to the university, and a lot of my friends all stayed in Nashville because they were like, oh, I don't need to go anywhere else. Nashville's coming up.
Right.
You're in Nashville. You went there because it is the music city, right? It's music.
Oh
It's the
yeah.
music capital of the country, and a lot of people do live there. More specifically, country music stars. But now that you're living there, and obviously during COVID, it was a lot different. But Nashville, in and of itself, is this like hotspot for pretty much everything. People are moving down there. Why do you think that is?
I think there's a cool vibe about Nashville. I moved to Nashville before. We called it Nashville the big move. Everybody started coming in back when it was
I
back when
think you were the reason. Everybody's like, I'm gonna go follow Michael Ray down there.
That's what that kid from Florida is up to. Why do you think? I back then it was literally like a small big city, like a small town big city. That's what I loved about it. And I think there's just again going back to what you stuff with. I think there's so much music. There's so many. Just it's just I can't really describe it. It's just
Hmm.
it's a cool place. It's a cool place. People want to come visit. You can go. There's great bands. You never know who you're going to see.
Yeah.
And I think it has the winters aren't that bad, so it's not that bad for people like me that move from even further south up there. And
Yeah.
I think it's just between the weather, between just the vibe there. I think people are hungry to be around positive energy and be
Mm.
around positive people, and it's hard to find negative people in Nashville, man. Everybody's really happy and really happy to be there, and constantly wanting to get better, constantly working on something. It took me a minute to catch up to the speed, man, because and it's gotten even faster now with everybody moving there. Like we were talking before we went on air, before people would ask me, hey man, where to eat at? There's about 5 places. Now I don't even know how many places are there now. And you mentioned a place I've never even heard of, and I live there. So um, it's just on the boom, man. And I think just that energy draws people in, and people want to be around that positivity.
No, I love that. We'll go to that place. I think, again, Restoration. I forget the name of it. It's a really cute, nice vibe, cocktail lounge, social lounge place. We'll go when I come to Nashville. But then you mentioned like positive energy. Southern hospitality is not going anywhere. And I keep telling people that. I'm in New York City now. I'm always in like between here and Los Angeles. And it's like the vibe is just different in Nashville and Tennessee as a
Yeah.
whole. And you can compare it to Charlotte all you want. You can compare it to Atlanta all you want. Nashville, Tennessee people in general are just different. There's a special type of Southern hospitality living in that state. So I'm glad I got your thoughts on that, man.
Yeah, you're right, man. I don't think Southern hospitality is going anywhere. Even I'll be in New York, and it's funny. I say yes, man, to my little sister. That's how I
Oh,
was
and they're
raised.
like, what does that mean?
Yeah, they're like, ma'am, and I like hold a door, and the lady's like, I got it, and I'm like, dear Lord, I'm just trying to be nice. I'm not. That is not. I wasn't trying to offend you by holding the door for you.
You're trying to call me an old lady by calling me ma'am. Get the hell
Yeah,
out of here.
yeah. They're like, don't call me ma'am. I'm like, sorry. What do you want me to call you? Like,
Oh man, it was your great upbringing. I'll tell you that much, man, because I had a very similar one. I wanted to leave a couple minutes here, Michael, for some few questions that we had in from our team specifically. Our team loves you. We love your music. First question being, if you had a female country music artist collaboration, who would that female artist be? Or maybe are you currently in the works of one? Maybe you're doing a little virtual Zoom sessions with a female country artist now. Any hits there?
I actually got a few. I would love to, do something with Reba. I think I think probably she's everybody's, go-to female if you do duet.
Yeah.
Ashley McBride
Yeah.
is on we're on the same label and have a lot of the same team members. And I've just been a big fan of hers for a long time. And maybe her and I could do something. I'd love to do something with her. Colby Calais is one of my best friends. We've talked about it as well. So I think those three are probably my top three pick tier of women that I would love to do a duet with and work with for sure.
Oh, that's fun, man. We'll bring it to life. Now that you've said it on here, we got it recorded. We'll ship it off to the teams or probably your team.
There you go. There you go. Tag Ashley on this. No.
That's what it is, man. But long behold, you don't know. She's in the waiting room. She's about to pop in what you didn't know, right? Oh my God, I was thinking the same thing, Michael.
Oh
man. Another country music question for you. So when singing country music, we all know that there's like a somewhat of a twang or like a draw to country music. Do you think if someone wanted to get into it, right? I mean, I think I lived in Tennessee a total of like 6 or 7 years, and I picked up a small little draw before I came up to New York, and it's a thing you can inherit. But if someone wanted to sing country music, is it necessary, or even like, is it something they have to have, which is that twang or draw in order to be a country music star?
No, I think you just need authenticity. I think that's country music. So if you have a little draw, or if you have a draw, I know people that their singing voice has a draw. They don't when they talk, but they, when they sing, that's how they, they have more of a twang when they sing. I think just be authentic. I don't think country music's I think it's the people's music. Yeah, I think that I think there's genres there. People go, I don't like that genre, I don't like that. But if you play country music, everybody's got one song that they're like, man, I remember my dad playing this. Or, you might not even like country music as a whole, but you like the one, So I think it's the people's music. And I think if you're an artist chasing, I don't think you need an accent. I think just be yourself.
Oh man. So if I go become a country artist, that's what we're coming down there. So when I come to Nashville, we're going to grab something to eat, but I'm also going to come to the recording studio and see if I can pull out a country mixtape. Cause I hear it and I'm like, if I sounded a little bit more Southern, I think I could, that's where my vocal cords might be sitting. It's not in the pop arena. Right? I've tried. Bro, hey, that's something we'll have to work on. All right.
There you go.
Last up, Michael Ray, buddy. I know there's a lot of stuff that you're working on. I know you're looking to kind of create this album around Whiskey and Rain. So, can you give us any exclusives as to like maybe what's cooking? What are you out doing, especially in Tennessee or maybe between home and Tennessee, and any upcoming announcements you might be working on?
Yeah, man. We're just working on getting this album together. Um, I just surprised my management with a song that they didn't know about, a massive collaboration that they didn't even know about. I wanted to surprise them with it, and so that I think just kicked a lot of a lot of shit into even faster gear than it was because I played it for them and they flipped out about it. So we got it's we just been focusing on, like I said, on getting this album finished up, writing a lot, and be expecting an announcement of when the EP will be released soon,
Mm.
and or later this year, but we'll be making an announcement soon. And it's been fun. It's always fun making a new album. Excuse me. It's always fun making a new album. It's also fun, being able to do the videos and figuring out creative ways. And I always like to go back and look at what we should have done different on other things instead of what we did right. What should we done different on some things, and apply that to now. So
Mm.
yeah, man, even though we're all not playing shows, we're all working our butts off
Have
to get
to, man.
out there. So
Oh, good. I'm excited for it, man. You got to let us know when it comes out, especially that collaboration. See, I think we're somewhat spiritually speaking things into existence during this call. That then in a couple weeks we're gonna get a call from you, and it's gonna be immediate. Hey, so so Reba and I have a new song coming
yeah.
out. Right? Get back in the Zoom call right now. Oh, Michael, I don't want this conversation to end, but we're coming to a graceful close, is what I'll call it, man. It's been such a pleasure having you on the show. I always leave a final question with our guests, and one that I have for you is one that I kind of want you to visualize for me, if you may. But if you had to paint the picture of in your mind as to what the perfect day in your life would look like, could be now, could be future Michael Ray, what would that picture be? If you had to paint a picture in your mind for that perfect day.
It would be on some land, riding, roads through the woods, and just hanging out, building a bonfire, and having some drinks out on a farm, and having some people over, man. I'm pretty simple, man. So that's to me, that would be the perfect day. Just a good fall day. Leaves are about kind of changing. Little brisk where you got to have a hoodie on and grab a side by side or my Jeep and roll through the woods and then end it with a big bonfire. That would seems like a dream. So
Oh man. Well, hey, dreams come true, buddy. And you certainly were a dream come true for the show. So I can't thank you enough for your time. And again, I was thinking you were gonna say, oh, on a winter day, we're gonna have to light a bonfire. But no, fall day,
yeah,
being a simple
yeah,
man, hanging
football,
out.
man. Yeah, and yeah, it fall's the best.
Man, if you didn't teach me a lot, I hope you taught a lot to the people who listen and tune into your episode. Michael Ray, thank you so much again for coming by the show. Since the day I saw you on ABC Strahan and Sarah, I believe about 2 summers ago, maybe 3 here in New York City, I knew you were on the rise, and you're certainly a star in what you do and beyond. So for sharing your story with us, thanks again, buddy. Everyone who is listening, Michael Ray is at Michael Ray Music on Instagram, which is our favorite platform. It's the only platform we exist on, and we're at Men of the Hour Podcast, and on YouTube as well. You can find Michael Ray anywhere you want to, my friends. And so somebody that I know, between his singles, really my favorites, Whiskey and Rain and Her World or Mine, you're going to be able to find anything Michael Ray. If you just look up that name right there, Michael Ray, anywhere you'd like to find his music. Now get out there, make sure you do something special for yourself and those around you. Michael Ray, thank you so much again.
Thank you, buddy. Appreciate it, man.